I'm Michael Fox, and this is Prospector Podcast. And we're on location at the Precious Metals Summit in Beaver Creek, Colorado. And I have sitting across from me, Relevant Gold CEO and Chairman of the Board, Rob Bergmann. Welcome to the podcast, Rob.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Always. You're one of those unique individuals. You and I have the same travel agent, I think, because we ended up at the same shows at the same time. I don't think you and I have actually done a podcast over the computer.
No.
We always seem to manage to do that, but you're a rarity.
I'm a people person. I'd rather do it in person.
Yeah, I do too. I really get tired of looking through the computer screen. But for those people who aren't familiar with Relevant Gold, let's give them the 10,000-foot overview of the company, what you do, and why you're doing what you're doing.
Sure. Well, Relevant Gold is an early stage gold explorer developing projects in Wyoming, where we believe we have defined the new American Abitibi belts. Yes, that may seem a little bit odd, but this is all based on science. We have put together a belt scale portfolio based on our thesis. And the thesis is really that Wyoming and the Abitibi were connected when all the gold came into both systems 2.7 billion years ago. And then later at 2.1 billion years, you had that southern block of the Abitibi rift off to where it presently resides, which is in modern day Wyoming. So that was the thesis that got us to put some boots on the ground. From there, we've assembled a world-class team of value creators that have created billions of dollars of value in this marketplace. Folks on our board like Dr. Peter McGaw and Ron Parrott and Sarah Weber, all who have been tremendously, serially successful. And we've been able to systematically develop our portfolio of 5 district scale projects. We've identified now, I think, 14 high-grade district scale targets across that portfolio. We've sunk drill holes into 2 of those with some great initial gold results. And we are just embarking on our 3rd drilling campaign out at our Lewiston project, where we're going to be drilling this season under some of the historic patented mines that had some of the highest reported grades of all of the historic gold mines out in that district. And in addition to that, we're developing our Bradley Peak gold camp simultaneously and expeditiously moving that into the drilling focus.
Yeah, let's talk about the history of the land that you're on. Off mic, you told me about some of the history of this going back to the Civil War days and some of the interesting artifacts and stuff that you're finding on this land that you're currently working on and exploring this summer.
Yeah, so both of our camps that we have, so we've got 2 major camps, our Bradley Peak and our South Pass camp. 4 of our 5 assets are in the South Pass camp, and the Bradley Peak camp is one large standalone contiguous package. Both of those saw a lot of historic mining, exactly coming from that kind of era in the 1850s to the early 1900s. Now, Bradley Peak, we found out recently in some of the history reports, some pretty interesting components of the early expeditions that some general from Nebraska had made out there in 1868 on the hunt for lead. As you can imagine, they needed lead for the war itself. And so they went out there, and another couple years later, another general went out where they started to identify not only lead mineralization, but more importantly, they actually started to find high-grade gold systems. And to this day, there's a number of these adits and shafts and old mine workings that they're just not even on the map. So it's really exciting when you get out to these areas, not only to find great rocks and great gold grades and copper grades, but also to see there's just so much out there that has never been properly documented. And we were very happy with how, we're finding new things every day. And so it's pretty exciting. It's a fun history, but it also is paved the way for us. Those old timers really knew what they were looking for. It cost a lot to get out there and do these things. And so it's always nice to find some of those old workings and old equipment and old mine steels and things like that, that are throughout that area.
Yeah, the old adage is you find a new mine near where an old mine is, and apparently with all the adits you were telling me you're finding on your land, there's a lot of old mines on your land.
There were, yeah. So there were some of them, a lot of them are documented, but we've just been shocked at how many of these have never been on the map, as well as the details of geology and things like that, where we're starting to see a lot of critical fine-tuned details in the rocks and what the implications are for gold mineralization. So it's a pretty exciting component of our work out there.
Yeah. Now let's get past the history and get back to the present here. You've had a really busy summer. You guys have been out there kicking rocks, drilling a few holes. What's the summer program been looking like? What can you share so far? And I understand you've acquired a new strategic investor as well.
Yeah, so we fortunately have been one of the groups that's been able to secure capital in these challenging markets. And with that capital on our last financing, we were able to bring in Kinross Gold as a strategic investor. We're pretty excited to have them join the ranks of some of our other top shareholders, including Mr. Rob Bergmann and New Gold, and myself and Brian, our co-founder, are still the largest shareholders of the company who invest in every round. Securing that capital was step one, and we immediately began deploying that capital into our exploration program. And as you mentioned, we've been pretty busy. We've been doing a detailed program at Bradley Peak to expedite that project to drilling in 2025, and we've had a lot of success there where we've identified multi-kilometer mineralized trends. We're still waiting on our second batch of results, but in the first batch, we certainly had some high grades illustrating upwards of 2.5% copper and 46.8 grams per ton gold. So we're seeing, again, nice high grade, big system potential at Bradley Peak. We're looking forward at getting a drill bit into that next year. In addition to the Bradley Peak work over at our South Pass camp, we are going to be drilling here, kicking that off this week, and we're going to be doing a small 1,000-meter program into the Lewiston project. We're moving 4 kilometers south of where we drilled last year and intersected widespread gold mineralization. We're moving along strike, and fortunately for this year's drill program, we actually have some subsurface data. All of our drilling programs to date have been the first ever in these targets. While there is some old mine workings, we recently got that historic data. So we're getting a better sense of what the orientation of the ore plunges are. So we're going to go in with this 1,000-meter program and test the continuation of that structure and mineralization below the historic mine workings, which terminated at about 35 meters. And then in addition to that, we're going to continue our regional program of soil surveys, geophysics across the portfolio. The beauty of all this, Michael, is we're going to end this season with the ability to rate and rank these 14 high-grade targets we've generated, 2 of which have been drilled and proven orogenic systems at, third one being drilled this year. And we're going to be able to focus our drilling dollars in the future next year into what we believe is going to be our best target. So we'd like to ramp up to a much more aggressive drilling campaign in 2025 based on the results we get from this year.
Yeah. So basically, when the summer program is all done and finished, you're going to know who your favorite child is.
Yeah. Yeah. But beauty of it is they're not actually children, so I can express which one's my favorite.
Exactly. Wonderful. So that's a good outline for where things are at. You're expecting results from these programs over what period of time? And
yeah, Bradley Peak should be this week, hopefully next week, maybe, but that should be coming back, and we're going to be really excited to demonstrate to the market what we're seeing there. And then the drill results probably November, early December is what we're targeting. Right now, we're like I said, we'll be kicking that off this week. It's a small program. We're going to knock it out quick, get samples off to the lab, and try to get them returned as soon as possible. So you can expect a very steady results-based news flow for the next few months out of Relevant Gold. Wonderful.
It's good to have something to look forward to this fall, and I'm loving the progress that's being made there. And I'm anxious to hear more about these old mine workings there and kind of the fun stuff that you're finding as you start kicking around and drilling underneath them.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the exciting part, seeing that rock come out of the ground.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for your time, Rob, and I look forward to having you again.
Thank you, Michael.
Relevant Gold is a paid sponsor of the Prospector News. The host owns shares and warrants of Relevant Gold bought at the market for investment purposes. The Prospector News podcast is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and are not to be taken as investment advice. Listeners need to do their own due diligence and seek advice of a licensed investment advisor.